Hello there, Susie Walker here from Psychologies magazine. Welcome to our 1 p.m. broadcast today, and I am so delighted to be joined by former Secret Service agent Evy Poumpouras. Lovely to see you.
Thank you so much, Susie. It's so wonderful to see you too.
I have seen that you have got a brilliant new book out called Becoming Bulletproof, which is all about building resilience and confidence. Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write your book.
I wanted to write a book about basically everything I've learned over all the years that I was a Secret Service agent, through the training, the education, the experiences, and put it into a book to help people in their everyday lives. Because the training, the education, and the experiences transcended beyond my professional career into professional relationships, and then also into personal relationships. And the foundations that those were built upon, like they just really, something as simple as reading body language. I was trained to read body language and listen to verbal language for suspects in getting a confession. But then I began using it in interviewing witnesses or victims. And then in business relationships with colleagues, because sometimes what people say and what they actually mean are not in harmony. Then you use it in your personal relationships. And then even something as simple as taking the techniques in which we use to connect with people to get them to open up, to give us information, admissions, new leads, a confession. Those are the same strategies that you use in any negotiation, because that's what I was negotiating in the room. And I was selling jail, which I would argue is probably one of the hardest things to sell. But your ability to connect with people, to communicate with people, and then even protection. I get asked so many questions about how do I protect myself physically, my family, and then conversely, how do I protect myself mentally? How do you become so resilient? How do you withstand something? How do you keep bad people and negative situations out?
Yeah. So let's talk about some of those. Give us some tips here, because this is so interesting. I mean, as a Secret Service agent, I mean, it was a matter of life and death. So I presume that you're so finely tuned with this reading. Let's talk about reading the room first, or reading people. I've watched your TED talk, and I think you said some really interesting stuff in your TED talk about what it's really about. So how do we know whether we can trust somebody or not? How do we read them?
It's what I want to say is there's a lot of layers to it. There's no gimmick. There is no do this 1, 2, 3 checklist and you've got it. Reading people is thoughtfulness, and there's a level of attention and work involved. It's not hard. They're all simple things you can do. It's just we don't do them. The first most important thing is when you want to read somebody, you have to listen. Yeah. You have to listen. And when I say listen, I mean, and I'm looking for my iPhone, which I did a good job. I didn't leave it here, but you can't be on your phone. Even holding your phone and talking to someone, you're still not fully present. And that person subconsciously senses that, even if they've got their phone in their hand. Are you listening to people? Are you looking at them when they speak to you? I always tell people, open your eyes and listen. Feel people, absorb their energy, because all those things together collectively lets you become more in tune with that person. And so when you can understand that person and feel them, you're able to articulate yourself. So there's a listening etiquette, active listening. That's the first part of it. The other part of it is think about the environment in which you are speaking to people. So if, let's take an HR example, human resources, you're looking to hire somebody for a job. And if you're sitting behind a desk, your desk, and they're speaking to you from the other side of their desk, you've just created a barrier. You've also created a me versus you element. And that person automatically is going to be very serious, very stiff, not relaxed, and defensive. They want the job. They're going to tell you everything they need to tell you. But you're also missing everything that's happening from the waist down. You're not seeing their whole body and what they're doing with their whole body. But if you remove that desk and if you sit in 2 chairs side by side and you just have a casual conversation with that person, you will get more information from that person because they'll be relaxed. Their walls are going to go down and they're going to think, oh, I'm just chatting away. Meanwhile, you're actually doing an interview. So being able to read people, read their body language, look at their postures. If I ask you, if you and I, Susie, were speaking and you asked me a question, and the whole time you're talking to me, my hands are down. This is something very simple. My hands are down. Then you ask me a question about, I'll make it up, who was my favorite president? Or, but even better, which president did you dislike, Evy? And you see me do this. Right away, you know that, one, you just lost me, and that I don't like that question. And so we've lost that communication. And so when you see that, you know, okay, I've just disconnected from Evy. I need to come back and reconnect with her. And those are some of the very simple strategies. And there's so many of them in which that you can utilize when it comes to connecting and reading people.
You know, when you said, I think I'm quite an intuitive person, and I have colleagues who are not. I've got a boyfriend who's very logical, and we have this kind of thing around decisions, and they say, we're going to make a very logical decision. And then I think, oh my God, it's not how I make decisions. I make very, very intuitive decisions. And I can often never tell people whether it's right or not. I can't explain to that person why I'm going to do that. Is when you talk about feeling and reading someone, is it intuition?
Yeah.
What are you talking about there? Is it energy? What are we actually talking about? So I can say, actually, well, this Secret Service person said.
Tell me, tell you. So what you're referring to is our, what some people call our sixth sense, our instincts, our intuition. And there's actually science that proves that it's something that works and we should listen to. In fact, the US military here in the United States, what they found is they saw that a lot of their soldiers were avoiding IEDs, improvised explosive devices, in the field, and saving lives because they followed their intuition. Because they asked them, why did you go down this road and not that road? You were supposed to go this way. And they would say, I had a feeling and I listened to it and I didn't. So there is science. What happens is what we've learned is that intuitively, before your brain has a chance to really assess and catch up to what's going on, intuitively, this sixth sense that we have is already giving you information by absorbing things. You just haven't been able to logically process it. So you should absolutely listen to it. But what happens sometimes when we are over logical, we have this feeling, but we say to ourselves, well, let's say you meet someone, you know, I don't like this person. They didn't say anything to you. They didn't do anything to you. But you're like, I just don't like them. It doesn't feel right. Yeah. That's intuition that you should listen to, because it's telling you intuitively something is off here. But what we do is we say, well, he didn't really say anything to me. He didn't really do anything to me. And we dismiss it. And we don't listen to ourselves.
Sure. Okay, well, I'm really pleased you said that. I can use your quotes there. You talk a lot in the book about resilience and how to build resilience. Talk to, how do we build our inner strength? So we were in this horrific time at the moment with COVID, and with the rioting and the terrible things that are happening in the world. You know, how can we build our inner strength?
When we deal with moments of stress, we can either completely fall apart or we can overcome them. We are in an environment right now where there is a great deal of stress. We've got COVID here in the United States especially, and I know they're over in London as well. We've had some riots and issues. And so if we completely surrender to that and fall apart, we're done. Now, having small amounts of stress in our lives is a positive thing. Like right now, we're dealing with a big amount of stress. And I think what we're going to see, Susie, is two types of people emerge when this is all over. Those who did well and survived, and not only survived, thrived, found opportunities, and were able to overcome, and then those that completely collapsed from it. When you're dealing with stress, the first thing, or a difficult situation, the first thing is to accept it. Where am I now? Live in the truth of things, not where you were, not where you wish to be, where you are now. Because when you live in the truth, then you can make decisions and strategize and pivot and adapt so that you can overcome or you can adjust to where you are. So first you accept. Once you truly accept, and that, believe it or not, that's the biggest hurdle for most people. Most people live in the, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this is happening to me. What am I going to do? They get stuck there. But once you accept and live in the truth of where you are now, then you move into adaptability. Okay, this is where I am now. What I was doing before, my routines, my strategies, they don't work anymore. So how do I adapt and change my routines, my strategies, the way I do business? How do I adapt myself to fit into this new environment? It's truly as simple as that. And then just overall in the lifetime, and I think this is so important for parents, allow your children to feel levels of stress. We want to protect each other, our families, our kids. And what we do is we deflect moments of stress from their lives. But then when something like this big thing happens, people don't know how to handle it. It's actually called the hormetic effect. And they use it in training. When you go into training, in Secret Service training, they begin to introduce small levels of stress to you. And every day, as you adjust, they increase those levels of stress incrementally. And so then you can adapt and adjust, adapt and adjust. And then you, from the first day you went to the last day you went, you are a completely different person. Your level of resilience is up here.
Yeah.
Because when stressful things happen, you're like, oh, I've been here before. I know how to handle the stress. This is not new to me. And so I think changing our perception of when we have stressful situations, and rather than seeing them as a negative thing, a thing we should avoid, it should be something, this is happening, I can embrace this, look at it as a challenge, and overcoming this will actually make me a more resilient person.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a post-traumatic growth, isn't there? The kind of that kind of whole field of when trauma happens and that you can actually grow from it versus, as you say, be destroyed by it. There's a lot of research about that. Yeah.
It's true. Even after, I remember after September 11th, you know, because I was there for the whole thing. And I found that there were two types of groups that were emerging after the fact. There were individuals who were struggling quite a bit. They had a lot of post-traumatic stress from it, and they had a really difficult time adjusting. I had, you know, one paramedic, one first responder who would call me constantly, and his whole life fell apart afterward. His wife left him. He lost it. He couldn't work anymore. There were just so many things that happened, and it wasn't just him. And then there were other of us that didn't fall to it, that didn't let that happen. And I don't want to. And it had nothing to do with. It had nothing to do with anybody being inferior, superior, or handling something better or not. It wasn't about that. What it really came down to is what we did after the fact. And for me, I remember after the fact, I was like, okay, well, I'm not the only person to go through this. There was how many thousands of people, and I was able to find meaning in what happened. If you can't find meaning in tragedy, you'll never be able to face anything. All you're going to do is sit and live in it and bathe in it. And so even after the attacks, I volunteered. And volunteering was such a powerful thing. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know how it was helping me and healing me at the time. I didn't understand it. But I would go down to ground zero. And rather than run away from it, I went there. I volunteered. We helped look through the rubble. We would find parts of people. We would go through sensitive information because there were CIA offices there, Secret Service offices there, and help other people who had really struggled. And that act alone really helped keep me from having problems later on. And so it's interesting because a lot of people ask me like, oh, that must have changed you. I was like, yes, it did. But it didn't affect me as negatively as many would have thought, or I would have thought, because I was able to find meaning in what happened and live in the truth of what happened.
Yeah, sure. Amazing. Really, I mean, just to say that you're one of 5 women to receive the Medal of Valor. So, let me take my hat off to you for everything that you've done. So fantastic. My last question to you is, you've worked with various presidents, but you've worked with the Obamas. Let me talk about the Obamas. And what can we learn about leadership from the presidents, and especially about President Obama? What have you learned personally, and what can you translate for us listening to this broadcast about leadership?
It's interesting you asked that, because in the book I dedicated a whole chapter about what I learned from every president and first lady that I protected, because I learned something from each of them.
Yes.
Because I was there up until the Obamas, and I watched and I learned, and it was one of the greatest gifts that I have, that I could take something away. And you learn a lot about leadership. You have to be a leader. I will tell you the one thing that amazed me with the Obamas and with many of the other presidents and first ladies the amount of abuse they get from the public, the media. Do you know what it's like? You're a human being, but once you become someone on that level, you're human. That goes away. People forget that you're an actual person. And the barrage of negativity, of hate that comes your way, and I'm not saying it for anybody to feel sorry for them. I don't mean it like that, but you're still a person. I want you to imagine that it's you yourself dealing with all of that hate day after day. And then you still have to wake up and go and run a country when you've got all these people saying these negative things, and the level of resilience that it takes and thoughtfulness to say, okay, these are the voices I should keep out. These are the voices I should listen to, but I still have to do my job. The level of fortitude and strength. And then even leadership. I would see the president, since you're bringing up President Obama, I would see him shake hands and pose for photos for people who publicly, with congressmen or people who publicly berated him on national TV and said horrible things about him. And then yet they'd say, Mr. President, let's do a photo. Oh, here's my family. And he would do the photo. Whereas the majority of people would be like, oh my God, no, with you? Look at all these horrible things you said about me, about my wife, about my family. Yeah. And that is leadership, when that stuff, when you don't let it change you. Yeah. When you could still stay above board and stay on that level. And I learned so much, because a lot of us want to lash out. We want to put people in their place. And I really learned what it means to have magnanimity.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No matter what is thrown at you, that you will be able to stay centered. And I mean, you know, in terms of enlightenment, isn't it? Is being able to, no matter what's going on around you. And, you know, I know that you can't get into that, but personally, perhaps we need a little bit more of that in the world right now. So I know you. Evy, thank you so much for your time today. You're really inspiring, fantastic messages that you're saying with becoming Bulletproof is out on the shelves now. I can't wait to, I've read parts of it, but I can't wait to read the rest of it. Thank you so much for joining us today, Evy. Lovely to see you.
Thank you so much, Susie. Thank you. Be well and be safe. Thank you so much.
Yes, lots of love. Bye-bye.
Bye.